Hi, I'm David Lee, and welcome again to Shell Point's Culinary Capers. I'm going to share another one of my favorite recipes for you for an appetizer. It's a tomato tart appetizer. And it's got a number of ingredients in it, and I want to go through this with you first. First, we're going to use puff pastry, an onion, and I always use the sweet onions, a tomato, and I'm using Kalamata olives today. You can use any olive you like in this as far as I'm concerned. And then the final base ingredient is basil. And we're also going to need on hand some salt and pepper to taste, a little bit of sugar, a couple tablespoons of water, and some olive oil. First thing I'd like to do, the recipe which I learned from a chef in Provence, is to chiffonade basil. And she calls for 8 leaves. And I just try to pull the leaves off, and I learned you don't want the stems. Chiffonade sounds difficult, but I just pack my basil together, get rid of these stems. I'll do 2 times here. You roll it up like a cigar, and then you just slice across it. It helps to have a sharp knife. Now we'll set this aside. Now we're going to cut our tomato. And I've washed this ahead of time. And the trick here is you want nice thin slices. So once again, a nice sharp tomato knife can come in handy for cutting these. So we're going to put them between some paper towels. And the last heel we used to always get as kids when we were over at Grandma's house. So that one doesn't go on the tart. Always reminds me of Grandma. So the last one goes to me. Okay, so now we have our tomatoes drying out. Okay, now we're going to do our onion. And the original recipe I got calls for using a whole onion. I don't like that much onion, but it's totally up to you how much onion you put in it. If you've seen me before, you know I use my mom's method of dicing an onion. Now that I've diced it both ways, and I've cut through about half of it, then I'll just start I thought enough ahead of time that I took this out of the freezer and put it in the refrigerator overnight. So that way they're going to be just about perfectly ready to use at this point. Now, most people use it right out of the box this way. What I learned from some of the TV shows I watch is to roll it out just a little bit. So we're going to You don't have to do this, but it just makes it a little bit bigger tart. It goes further. You can make this in any shape you want. You can cut it in a circle, you can do whatever you want. I happen to like a rectangle, and I'm going to show you something fun I do with 1/3 of it then. I cut that off. And I liked, as you watch my show, you'll see I like to garnish the plates. Well, there's always some leftover dough no matter what you do, so I take a cookie cutter or something. And with this, I happen to have a cutter in the shape of a little fish. So I'm going to make some little fish. I can hear our onions starting to simmer, so let me just walk over there quickly and give them a little toss. Here's what we're looking for here. You can't really mess this up, but we don't want to brown them. We just want to soften them a little bit. And then we're going to add a little water and sugar and cover them. So we've rolled that out on there, and then you either put another silk pad on it or a piece of parchment paper. And then she taught me to weight it down, because we don't want it to puff up. Puff pastry puffs up, but we don't want this to puff up really high, so we weight it down. And I happen to have this mallet that'll help weight it down. And I got one more piece of parchment paper here. It's another reason why I cut out these little, it's kind of hard to tell when it's done. So I put my little fish on here, and not only do I have a fun little cookies at the end, but this will help me tell when we're done cooking, because I can just watch when they're nice and toasty brown, like the finished one. So 375 degree oven, 10 to 12 minutes is what this is going to take, maybe a little bit longer. So in we go. A tablespoon of sugar, 2 tablespoons of water, and as they say, salt and pepper to taste. Cover it, turn it down to low, and let this simmer for up to 10 minutes. So what I did was prepare some ahead of time, just like I would if people were coming over to our house for dinner. So you can prepare the puff pastry and the onions ahead of time, put them in the fridge or keep them covered. So this happens to be one I did just a couple hours ago. And here's what the onions look like when they're all done. Basically, all the water has evaporated, and it's just the onions and the salt, pepper, and a little bit of sweetener added to it. So I find that this will serve 6 people as an appetizer. So now I've got my onions down. Now for our tomatoes that are nice and dry. How does that look to you? Now we'll sprinkle our olives on here, and you either cut them up or tear them up, doesn't matter which. Now we put our basil on. And I'm not going to use quite all of it because I want to use some of it when we pull it out to give it a nice green color. And then it's optional, but I like to put some nice sea salt on the tomatoes. And then we'll drizzle just a little bit of olive oil on top. There you go. In the oven for 10 minutes, and then we'll be ready to eat. Thanks again for being with me today, and that's it. Bye now.